Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and this evening I want to talk to you all a bit about the best build of Warlock that you can be playing in Dragonflight pre-patch. Now, for those that haven't seen over the past couple days, I believe today's day 3 of Dragonflight pre-patch. Affliction Warlock is dominating. We are playing the Necrolord Covenant, and it is really, really good. So this video, we talked about it a bit in the last one, but I want to review what the build actually is, why it's so good, the two different builds, like one in single target and one more Mythic Plus kind of build, even though they're both actually pretty similar, how to play it, and just break down the logs in the past couple days of raiding, because initially we thought that, yeah, it was going to be good, Dasher was going to be good with Burn to Ashes, but I didn't think there'd be this level of disparity between Affliction with Necrolord Drain Soul stuff and Destruction. Now, the jury's still out on if it's going to remain a thing for the remainder of pre-patch. This build was initially functioning like this in Shadowlands Alpha, but it was changed, I'll get to that in a little while here, to not be as complicated nor as strong in beta, and it was that way for the entire duration of, well, Shadowlands. Now, it's not really a old power overlapping with new power kind of thing, like you see with Demonology, for example, with certain builds. All of the powers that make this build good, barring like one change to one talent, have existed for the entire duration of Shadowlands. It's just that Decimating Bolt didn't buff as many Drain Souls. So it makes me wonder if this build's going to last more than a few more days. We'll see. It is pre-patch. Powers typically overlap for a while, and there's some busted builds. Bliss doesn't typically touch them unless they're too busted. But this build is pretty strong. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it, looking at some of the recent, I guess, logs from the past 48 hours in the 3 Fated raids, then get into the builds and why they're just this good. All right, so getting into the logs here very briefly over the last few days of pre-patch, I want to say, number one, I just recorded about half an hour of footage and my mic was muted. So I'm recording this again. Hopefully it's not too fast for you guys, but it's now 4 in the morning and I'm going to get this video up. Yeah, we all make mistakes, I guess. So, but regardless, though, I wanted to look at the logs in the past 2 to 3 days of pre-patch and just show how Affliction Warlock is performing comparatively to every other class. So I have Sepulchre, Sanctum, we can go Nathria first here. Now, a couple fights here are really good examples of AF's damage profile, where it's good and where it's bad. So Shriekwing, for example, there's one AF lock here at about a 139 kill. Going down here to Hungering Destroyer, for example, though, it's a 210 kill, a 203 kill. Looking pretty solid overall. A couple people are ahead of us, like a Boomkin Warrior. If you go down to Zymox, though, now number one, Zymox, I'm pretty sure is Chaotic Modes this week, so I mean, it's a pad fest. Soul Flame is a large portion of Warlock, AF Warlock damage in logs, because Chaotic Modes die to Soul Flame very well, just how like they did to Dogs with Dreadlash and all the implosion value. Soul Flame can do a good portion of that. To a similar extent, though, so Affliction, with Necrolord Affliction with Decimating Bolt, has interesting cooldown windows. You'll cast your PS and your Phantom Singularity and your Decimating Bolt basically at like 10 seconds into the fight, and then again at like 55, roughly, again at like 140-ish timing-wise, and then again at about 225, which means you also push your Dark Lair back to that 4th set around 225, usually. So you can see, for example, on a fight like this, let's see, where's Shriekwing at? So yeah, about a 139 kill. Timing-wise, this is not optimal. Most likely, this person is getting Phantom Singularity and Decimating Bolts right at about this time when the boss dies. Now, AF's damage profile is still exceptionally strong. So his overall breakdown here is still a very large portion of Drain Soul, being 47%. But at the same time, you can see here he has 2 large damage windows. You can see in the opener, his Drain Soul is massive. It's probably buffed with Lust and everything else. Big drain damage, 3 cast here. If you reset the zoom here, he has 3 damage events here too. This is going to be 1 Drain Soul. This is going to be 2 Drain Souls, and I would assume it's going to be a 3rd Drain Soul. And lo and behold, it is. So right about when this boss died, he said he cast his 2nd Decimating Bolt at about 105, so it'd be up about 150. The boss died at 140. So fight duration is very impactful when it comes to Necrolord, Decimating Bolt, Drain Soul Affliction, but at the same time, on Chaotic Mode fights, well, Soul Flame can also carry you, just how it carried Demonology. So going through here, Hungering Destroyer, good AF fight, a bit early on a kill time here. 235 would have been a little better. 207, 203, 155. If these fights had lasted about 20-ish seconds longer, maybe 30-ish, Necrolord AF would be doing much more damage here. I believe Sun King Salvation is Moats this week. Soul Flame damage, obviously, on a heavy ad fight also helps there. A lot of Necrolord play here. Basically all Malefic Wrath play. A little bit of Wrath Consumption play, which is fine. It's a good ability in this fight, too. Dots do damage and, you know, ag cleave based fights. Zymox, once again, being chaotic modes, but also a lot of just Necrolord Drain Soul damage. These kill times, 239, 245, also very good for it. You can get a big Drain Soul in the end of the fight. Enervo having 1 lock, Council of Blood having a bunch, just AC pad, I'd assume, Drain Soul, Soul Flame stuff. Sludge Fist having a huge Drain Soul here coming from Zovak, it looks like. At the very end here, pulling up the Raid's damage, they did about 240k, 8k, with a Drain Soul hitting for about, a lot of damage. So you can see how strong Necrolord Drain Soul Aff is, due to Decimating Bolt affecting 3 Drain Souls and not 1. SLG Sire here. A similar extent when it comes to Sepulcher, Vigilant Guardian being large Soul Flame Cleave, Drain Soul Cleave, damage amps on the boss at the end here. I had a 190k Drain Soul tick on the boss at the end here. It didn't do this much damage though. There's just a lot of room for, I don't want to use the word exploitation, but like a lot of room for Decimating Bolt shard sniping on very low health mobs on that fight. Rygalon also just being good for the fight, good for the spec in general. Low health mobs, you can snipe Quasars if you want. You can snipe the orb downstairs if you want. The Jailer being dominated by Afflocks, and Sanctum having a mix of Afflocks in certain fights too, like the 9, Soul Render, a mix here and there, but let's be honest, Sanctum's sort of boring. So, but yeah, TLDR, this version of Aff is very, very strong. It's very good in single target, very good in AoE with Soul Flame. So with that being said, let's take a look at the talent builds that I played, and just the ones that are performing the best in like single target, and theoretically also in Mythic Plus, and then the rotation. Alright, so when it comes to talent builds, this is what I'd say is probably the most universally applicable build of Necrolord Affliction. You have the Seeds, Seed of Corruption, Pent-Up Singularity, Siphon Life. You can play AC here, you can play Vile Taint here, Shadow's Embrace, Soul Tap, Drain Soul, Pandemic Invocation. You also have Sacrilege. Now, Soul Flame and no ID. Now, I played Haunted Soul Row here when it came to raiding. I didn't change talents at all. You have your AoE with Seed if you need to you know, cast Seeds for Soul Flame value on chaotic modes or ads that are spawning, whatever. You have Soul Flame. You have your Dark Lair. I have seen builds that play like this. They play Creeping Death, Haunt, Dark Lair, Soul Rot, and either Crescendo in like raiding typically, or Wrath of Consumption when it comes to Mythic Plus. I've even seen builds playing things like this when it comes to like Mythic Plus, like Creeping Death, Haunt, Dark Lair, Wrath of Consumption, and Tormented Crescendo. I don't think Soul Rot is really worth it. Number one, if you're not playing ID in a cleave setting, which you're probably not in this build because Drain Soul just hits harder. Even a max stack ID is not worth casting from what I assume and understand, and the basic Florida map that I ran appears to be that way. Just because of how hard Drain Soul hits. Drain Soul is amplified by Shadow's Embrace, by Nightfall if you get the right procs, by Drain Soul by a mob being below 20% health in the first place, by Haunt. It is amplified by Wrath of Consumption if you're playing it, but we're not playing it in most builds. And outside of that, it's also amplified further, like we talked about, by Malefic Wrath, your legendary. Malefic Rapture increases the damage of your Shadow Bolt, it should say Drain Soul, which is bugged, by 35% for 10 seconds, and it stacks 3 times. So this shifts Affliction from being a basically Rapture kind of toolkit or profile every minute or so with your dots being up, to being a playstyle that Raptures once every 7 to 8 seconds to maintain this buff in single target, and then do a lot of damage through your Drain Soul. That's further amplified by playing Unity, or Shard of Annihilation if you're Necrolord, which you should be playing, which guarantees 3 Drain Soul critical strikes for every single tick and increases the actual crit strike chance. So when you add all that in, Decimating Bolt increasing it by 100 to 200 baseline as well, the further lower the mob is on health, on top of Drain Soul just doubling its damage on a mob below 20% health, this build hits exceptionally hard, and Drain Soul becomes a very large portion of your damage profile. Now, we are not playing Withering Bolt here, the talent. I have heard we're playing the Conduit instead here. The Conduit is a baseline 20% damage amp per dot active, and there's no cap on it like the talent is. The talent's 15 and it caps at 3 dots. We're also playing Malignancy and Rolling Agony. We're playing Plague Divisor. I have heard there's a rumor of a bug with this stack with the talent. I can't replicate it. If it's working for you, great, keep playing it. It's not working for me. I think it's just a rumor. Either way, the build is very, very strong. Necrolord has the synergy with this build. If you play Night Fae or whatever, you can play Malefic Wrath, but Necrolord with Decimating Bolt and Shard of Annihilation is why this build does so well. Decimating Bolt, all the way up to Shadowlands, I think mid-beta, was buffing 3 Drain Souls whenever you cast it. They changed it to buff 1 Drain Soul later on in beta because it was hard to play, it was complicated. It's like you're juggling 10 different things. You're juggling Shadow's Embrace and Haunt and Malefic Wrath and Raptures and PS and Agony and Corruption and Siphon Life and UA and every other dot in the world possible. So they made it 1 Drain Soul. It was pretty strong too. But the thing with this is that it's back to buffing 3 Drain Souls. So here's 1. I'll just cancel it. 2. Here's second 1. Here's third 1. Still 1 stack left. And the interesting thing here is that watch the Shard of Annihilation buff. When I finish this Drain Soul cast, this buff will remain for 5 seconds. Watch my combat log. So the drain finishes, I can drain again. And this drain also crits every time. The buff will fall about now. And then they stop critting. The buff from Shard of Annihilation is bugged as well. And it will stay active for like 5 or 6 seconds after you finish your third and final Decimating Bolt buffed Drain Soul. So it's not just Decimating Bolt buffing 3 Drain Souls, it's also the fact that Shard Annihilation is bugged, albeit at a much lesser overall value, but you still can get a 4th Drain Soul, theoretically being semi-empowered, into that Shard of Annihilation window, if you want. So, all that being said, you can indeed also play different talents if you want, like in Mythic Plus. I played this in rating very briefly again right here. I played this. I've seen playstyles like this being played, where they just go 1, 1, 1, 1, and put a point here for crescendo. In Mythic Plus, I probably play something like this. I probably play like something like this, honestly. Dark Lair, Haunt, Creeping Death, crescendo. You could play Soul Rot. I don't think it's worth it if you're not playing ID. I don't think it's really worth it in general, because Drain Soul just hits harder in the first place. You can play Absolute Corruption and Vile Taint over it if you want from Mythic Plus as well. But the big thing, yes, this build has a lot of like single target funnel with Drain Soul. It might seem like Night Phase more applicable in Mythic Plus because like Soul Rot and Decaying Soul Satchel, but I can assure you there are a lot of low health mobs in Mythic Plus. You can snipe them for huge empowerments on your Drain Souls. And you still have a good profile in AoE. You still have Vile Taint. You still have AC if you want. You still have Creeping Death. You still have the Seed profile. You still have Soul Flame. This build is universal. Whether you're playing this row or just this row here, they both pretty much do it all. Let's take a look at the rotation briefly. Okay, so rotationally, like we said, the big synergies here are going to be like Shadow's Embrace buffing Drain Soul itself doubling damage below 20%, Haunt buffing Drain Soul. Haunted Soul does not buff Drain Soul, but it's still an overall buff to your dots. You also have Malefic Wrath Legendary, you have Shard of Annihilation, you have Decimating Bolt, and you have other damage amps like trinkets and things and all that kind of stuff. Now, Affliction has typically been known to be more haste mastery secondary stat priority wise, but number 1, Mastery does not buff Drain Soul. It buffs basically everything but that. Rapture, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, PS, Unstable Affliction, and Seed of Corruption. No Drain Soul in there. So, when I was running Sims with this build, like 6 months ago, going into Sepulchre, Haste and Versatility were the stats that are pulling ahead for me by a good bit over Mastery, over Crit, and everything else. I haven't run Sims with this build. I don't know if they're even working properly. In the end, your Drain Souls are going to hit really hard either way. I am prioritizing a bit more versatility in my gear just off of baseline theory / Feely crafting and old Sims. I will say I am currently playing Cabal's Hymnal, but I would probably swap this potentially for like Eye of the Jailer trinket, or maybe like a Soleil's at a high eye level, or a trinket from Kel'Thuzad, Forbidden Necromantic Tome, because my Drain Souls are guaranteed to crit when I cast Decimating Bolt. The other ones aren't buffed by it, won't. There's still a chance, but the ones that do crit, that are guaranteed, that are buffed by a bunch, they're guaranteed to crit. So realistically, the crit chance on this trinket is not as strong as it would be, you know, in a non-Necrolord Shard world. It's still good. It'll still buff other effects like Rapture and Dots and non-Decimating Bolt Drain Souls, but I wouldn't mind playing another equip-based non-crit trinket, or at least keep it in mind. To a similar extent, I am not playing Shattered Orb. I am playing Stun Grenade for big versatility buff. Versatility, bigger drains, all the above. So I'm going to hit this dummy here. Now, once again, keep in mind, I am playing this guy, Plague Divisor. We're playing Kevin's Oozling as well. So, on top of all those Drain Soul nerfs, for 15 seconds after you cast Decimating Bolt, or buffs, I'm sorry, not nerfs, you will do more Drain Soul damage when you hit the target for 15 seconds after casting Decimating Bolt due to Kevin's Oozling. We're playing Withering Bolt, the Conduit, Malignancy, and Rolling Agony. So the opener you want to follow typically is going to be precasting a Haunt to Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, drain to 3 stacks here of Shadow's Embrace. There's 2, there's 3. End of Singularity, Decimating Bolt, Trinket Pod if you want to, Dark Glare, Rapture 3 times. 1, 2, 3, Drain Soul. You're going to want to refresh your Haunt here. Get Haunt, Rapture, catch this dot, catch our Siphon Life, Drain Soul. Catch our UA, we can refresh our buff one more time here by Rapturing, Drain Soul. And look at the damage breakdown here, 47, 49, 50, 51. Drain Soul is an exceptionally large portion of your damage profile. And the big thing, you do not let Malefic Wrath drop. If your Siphon Life drops, if your Corruption drops, honestly, if your Agony drops, you don't want them to drop, especially Agony, but if it does, it is what it is. You want to not interrupt your Decimating Bolt buffed Drain Souls. They are exceptionally important to get the full channels out of. But that being said, we have PS again here and Decimating Bolt, so we'll cast this, refresh my Agony. I'll Rapture once here. Big Drain Soul. I'll Rapture. We're going to have to refresh Corruption here. Drain Soul. We have to refresh a couple dots here. We'll go Haunt. Siphon Life. We have to Rapture once here to catch this. Go UA again. Drain Soul. And even with that being said, I mean, look what UA is doing. UA is like 7%. Drain Soul's 52%, right? You can see just how strong every stacking damage-based effect is with this actual build. We have a window coming up again here in about 15 seconds, so we can Rapture refresh here, catch our UA, catch our Corruption, drain a little bit. We are playing Soul Tap here. I didn't do it in our opener, but you can actually pre-Soul Tap and go into the pool with 5 shards. Just keep that in mind. I'll catch Corruption here. So we're going to go Haunt. I'll Rapture once here to refresh. We can go PS, Decimating Bolt. We can drain once here. We have a good bit of duration left. We can drain. I will Rapture about now. Have to catch a handful of dots that are falling. Agony, UA, Siphon Life, catch the Corruption, Chi, why not? We'll Rapture again. We're going to cast our Haunt. We have a buff Drain Soul here. Big Drain Soul buff, and we drain one more time. Now, the cool thing is that we have Dark Lair in 5 seconds here too, but we're about 25-ish seconds off of our PS and our actual Decimating Bolt here, so we're going to hold our Dark Lair for about 15 more seconds, maintain the buff. Target's getting low on health here as well, which is very cool to see. It means more Decimating Bolt value. When it drops below 20%, we get double the value out of Drain Soul, which is going to be very, very big. Catch the Siphon Life, catch the actual Corruption here. Rapture again for buff here. We have actual effects in about 2 seconds here, so we'll end up going PS. I'll just Haunt here. It's close enough. Why not? We'll find We'll Dark Lair. We'll Decimating Bolt. We'll Trinket. I'll catch my buff here. Big Drain Soul. Okay, Rapture again. Catch this. Catch this. Big Drain Soul. And we got an Empowered one coming up here. We can Rapture one more time, catch these buffs, catch that, refresh our Haunt. Rapture one more time, and get a big Necrolord Nightfall Decimating Bolt, fully empowered Drain Soul. And if I cast any more Decimating Bolts or whatever at this point, this mob is below 20%. These Drain Souls are going to hit even harder. And it's already 52% of our damage. So you can see, like, yes, while even in Mythic Plus, while Night Bane might bring a very strong AoE profile with, you know, like Soul Rot and Decaying Soul Satchel and the haste crit buff that it brings with Unity, this build is so strong. Drain Soul is a very large portion of your damage, and there are many low health mobs in Mythic Plus you can snipe with Decimating Bolts, whether you're playing Battle Tank or PS, to get even stronger empowerments on Drain Souls from pack to pack. So Necrolord Aff is, at this current point in time, unless they fix the triple Drain Soul buffed Decimating Bolts, or you know what I mean, if they make it go from 3 to 1, until they do that, this version of Aff is the best spec to play in Dragonflight pre-patch for, I mean, not even just Affliction Warlock, for Warlock in general. Burn to Ashes Destro's not bad either. If this ends up getting nerfed, we'll look at that. But Necrolord Aff Drain Soul Malefic Wrath build is exceptionally strong. You can play it in nearly any content. Soul Flame, Drain Soul, Sow the Seeds. The toolkit just carries, and it is good in basically every scenario. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Now, like I said, this build is, like, yes, it might seem like it's pretty single target based. My hair is a mess. With Decimating Bolt, Drain Souls being that strong, and while that profile does seem to be more of a single target based one, the raw power level is just undeniable. We've seen things like this in the past with, like, Explosive Potential Demonology and BFA, where you would play it on AoE fights, and yeah, it had some AoE, but it was just so good at what it did, even in single target, you still beat the heavy AoE classes, and that is sort of what this build does. But with things like Soul Flame, with the cleave that it can bring regardless, this build has the insane single target. It has the seed value, it has the Soul Flame value. It just is good all around. Now, my bet is that it probably doesn't make it for another week or so. Blizzard might lead this alone, but it's not necessarily just Decimating Bolt buffing 3 Drain Souls. It's also the fact that Shard of Annihilation of the Necrolord Legendary is lasting longer than it should, so that bug might be fixed. They might leave Drain where it's at. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But if that is changed or reverted back to 1 Drain Soul, we do have Necrolord Burn to Ashes for Destro as well, which is also very good. We're going to hold off on that video for a little bit longer here, so But yeah, all that being said, guys, if I missed anything in this video or you have any questions, drop them down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. Any week warriors, anything you saw in this video, link to my Discord and my Twitch down below where you can grab both, just !WA in Discord or in Twitch chat. And they are indeed available to you guys for free. With all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, be sure to smash the like and sub buttons. It helps out a ton. Oh, and I want to give one huge shout out to my patrons as well before we end it. Thank you for all the support, guys. On Patreon a million times. Really, truly do appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link here, as well as down in the video description below. With all that being said, we are roughly a month away from Dragonflight's launch. The next month's gonna be pretty busy on the channel, on both here and on Twitch. A lot of cool things happening, and I'm excited to see where it all goes with you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.